10 seconds.
Please turn the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to rid suffering and templates and percentage and quickly realize number.
I'm hearing a latency. Is there a microphone on there? It's repeating, looping. Oh. Might be me. No. I'm hearing a latency. Is there a microphone on there? Everything I'm saying is repeated 30 seconds later. Yeah. Oh. Okay, we'll work that out. Might be me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo sarandho suchedoye alahadi sammya sampudoshe. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. It's a great loop. Are we recording? Multiple, singing a chorus. How? 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. Now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Okay. We have retrograde Mercury, gremlins at work. Welcome, everybody. My name is Heng. Today is Sunday, May 30th. We're here in the Gold Coast Dharma realm to bring you the Flower Garland Sutras, Chapter 39, the Entering the Dharma Realm chapter. Let's see. Welcome, everybody. My name is Heng. Today is Sunday, May 30th. We're here in the Gold Coast Dharma realm. This guy to bring you the Flower Garland Sutras, Chapter 39, the entry of the Dharma realm.
Okay, it's in the audio setting.
Let's see. Welcome, everybody. My name is Heng. Today we're studying the 40th.
Yeah, I think just go back to your original video.
Chapter 39.
Is your speaker this?
Okay, it's in the audio setting.
Let's see.
I like
Same
you.
system.
YouTube's open, right?
Okay.
I think just go back, just change the source for original because when you want to switch.
Okay, change test. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and then
Right
come
there.
back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the speaker have to mute also because the sound comes from your speaker. So maybe you want to switch.
Okay, change test.
Please,
Okay, there we go.
it's more.
Okay,
Yeah,
right
no
there.
sound. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
That's it? Good. Okay. I turned off my speakers. Now I can't hear Locke or anybody, so okay. All right, well, we're back. Thank you all for, says not hearing anything, turn up the volume. Locke, if you need to talk to me, send a text. So welcome everybody. 欢迎大家. We are here at Gold Coast Dharma Realm. It's Sunday, March 30th, and we're going to be explaining the Flower Garland Sutra. There's a beautiful lyrical passage today from Mi Jie Daren, Lord Mega, as he praises Sudana. And as the sutra goes, it says, when the Bodhisattvas heard Lord Mega praise Sudana, they were very happy, it says. That's our text today. So coming up, let's proceed with our protocols for getting our sutra lecture underway. Okay, turn that off. I want everybody to be able to see this. There we go. I'm just gonna block it. Here we go. Last time. It's a lot of music for a primitive African instrument known as the banjo. Choppy audio, anyone, says Locke. Let's see here. Now, it could be that there was, yeah, the original sound was off for the banjo, too bad. Now, that should smooth out the audio. We are still in the middle of retrograde Mercury. Expect the unexpected. Here we go. We respectfully acknowledge the Kumbh-married people of the Ugambe language region as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where the monastery is located. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 那就是说，我们恭敬地承认与冈贝语族的孔布玛丽人，他们是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬， 并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Yes, and we conclude with the bell song. It goes like this. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法仰望一股中，共训其法界和平，利益报他们厚德。That concludes our pre-lecture protocols. There we go. I would like to let folks know that if they would like to ask questions, please type in a question if you have one. Preferably about Dharma or about cultivation or about the Sutra. And our hardworking Sizop will edit them down, translate them, and pass them on, and I'll do my best to get your questions answered. I'll have to answer shorter if I'm going to do more questions. I've been answering too long, and people are feeling like I'm ignoring your question. It's just lack of discipline on my part. Also, we have some announcements of events coming up in the summer that will follow at the end of the lecture. So hang in there. Please join us for that part. Things you don't want to miss. Where are we? We are following Sudana, the pilgrim, traveling through. It was India when it was done first. You could transpose it to pretty much anywhere, and the relationships and the principles would be the same. Sudana is meeting and learning from a whole list of kind-hearted men so far, but we learn further on that 21, almost half of his teachers are women. And one of the biggest lessons he has to learn is compassion. And those lessons in compassion come by and large from the women teachers whom he meets. And I really want to emphasize that the female teachers who are specifically female in his travels are not second best or offering an inferior Dharma. They are offering essential, necessary teachings for Sudana to make it to Buddhahood. So what a lesson for us today, who tend to, there's a trend nowadays to remove women from positions of authority in the military or in business, just overlook them and not promote them, or to assume that somehow their contributions in medicine, in law, in literature, etc., are less important or soft or mushy. Not the case. We'll find that out from the Buddha's point of view in the Entering the Dharma Realm chapter. One-to-one, Sudana is learning things he needs to know if he's going to be a Buddha from his women advisors, his female advisors. Today, he is in a place. The country he's in is not significant. The last one by the seashore was important for 2 teachers ago. Where is he? Let's see. As he meets, 是上在丁里去的 see here. It was 20上在宗子一正念发光明门深住念多少 Let's see, 一切佛主南行至自在场. The city where he is called Zizai, and we've been discussing in our translation circle how to translate Zizai, and there's lots of different opinions. what did we call it? The city of mastery was a sovereignty. That's pretty good. A city called sovereignty. We've, I think, decided to call it self-mastery for Zizai. You master the self, and you explode the illusion of the self. So Zizai, the translations of Zizai go everywhere from free and easy to comfortable to sovereign self-mastery, effortless self-mastery. All of those translations are, you see what's the problem here. Here it is, here's the Chinese. It's Cheng is city, and Zai, which means to be there, to be present, to be at there, located there. Zi, self, the self-at, self-present, is the literal word for word Chinglish translation. But if you ask 100 Chinese, what does Zizai mean? You're gonna get 95 different answers. Sort of like freedom, but freedom is sort of like it's just not uptight, you know, easy, like everything works out for you, like that. There is a god in the Buddhist pantheon, and his name is Ishvara. And there's a god above him who is called Big Ishvara, Maheshvara, Zi Zai Tian and Da Zi Zai Tian. And those two are, Master Hua would always talk about them as being in between the desire realm and the form realm, if you're going straight up through the levels of heavens. So Zi Zai Tian and Da Zi Zai Tian. The Japanese Buddhists made a big deal out of Ishvara and Maheshvara. And they are said to ride around on large white oxen. That's their ride, is Da Bai Niu, Da Bai Niu, I guess that's it, yeah, so. And they're able to go through the heavens. They can go down into Mara's realm, the desire realm, and not be caught by the demon, by Mara. And they can travel up into the form realm where the Brahma heaven gods are in deep samadhi. And Master Hua would describe them as being a little bit arrogant, sort of kind of proud of their freedom. So Zizai has something to do with the behavior of these gods in the heavens. So how interesting is that, Zizai? So Sudana is in the town. This name goes to the name of the city where he found his next teacher. And the teacher is there answering Sudana's questions, describing what a bodhisattva does. And last week, what he said was, he said, boy, my screen is too big here, let me squeeze it down, there we go. He said, meeting a bodhisattva is hard to do. They're rare, to really get a bodhisattva there. And these bodhisattvas are places of reliance. You can rely on them. If you're in trouble, if you're upset, if things are not working out, go find a bodhisattva if you can, if you have one available, and ask them for safety, for security, for refuge, and they will come through. They'll deliver the goods. Not only will they solve your problem, but they will help you towards Buddhahood. They'll move you forward in your spiritual path. Bodhisattvas operate powered by vows. The vows of a bodhisattva are their fuel that keeps them going when everybody else would stop, because they feel unappreciated. Bodhisattvas give lots of advice, and most of it is ignored or not followed. It's not a piece of cake, bed of roses being a bodhisattva, not at all. So, but they don't quit. Those vows keep them going because their success depends on Du, Zhong, Sheng, taking living beings across. That's the Buddhist word, technical term. That is to say, they say we'll go last, bodhisattvas go last, in leaving samsara, leaving suffering. Here's what we heard last week. Bodhisattvas guide beings spiritual growth towards realization. They're the savior of all beings. 为一切众生拯济拔诸苦难. They pull them out of suffering. They find a way to make it possible to survive our world called the Saha world. It's not easy. Sometimes you just want to, what did Anthony Newley was the famous British playwright who wrote, "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off." That was his Broadway play. It ran for years and years. Maybe the signature song from that musical was "What Kind of Fool Am I?" Right? So when living beings, when we are feeling that way, stop the world, I want to get off. The Bodhisattva says, yeah, you know, getting off the world isn't all it's meant cracked up to be. You just stick around. There's a way to leave through the front door. I'll show you the door and take you out into your next rebirth higher than you were before. So Bodhisattvas find a way to du zhongsheng, to pull us out. We are Bodhisattvas, they say that Bodhisattvas are refuges, refuge places, protect and guard the world, rescuers of living beings because they deliver them from fear. And last week we concluded that section by referring to how Master Shenhua would describe this. It wasn't that, there's a Jewish image of the Messiah, which was borrowed strongly by Christianity, of this. In that case, it was Jesus, Jesus the Christ, the one who saves. But it need not be identified with Jesus of Nazareth. It's just a Messiah is someone who appears. And of course, the idea is you want to see him in a body, you want to recognize him, and he saves you. He makes it all good. You give all the strength to the Messiah, the Savior. The way Master Hua explained it is the Bodhisattva gives you a method and you save yourself. That's the difference. And what's even more interesting is the methods that he gave us were always like super down to earth. They weren't magic. They work like magic, but they weren't magic. One of the best examples I've ever heard of came from Taiwan, from the Taipei Fajie, the Dharma Realm book printing and distribution center in Taipei. There was one particular nun who had made an unusual vow, and her vow was, I'm not going to gossip. Gossip in Chinese is called 是非, the rights and the wrongs. Talking of others, 讲他的是非, 讲人的是非. You talk about people's longs and shorts, their strong points and their shortcomings. And this nun made a vow never to do it. She just, whenever she heard talk about a third party who wasn't there in the group, she just didn't talk. And it was amazing to see this at work, because there would be a group of people who mindlessly, like we do, would just talk about so-and-so. Did you hear about so-and-so? Oh, I heard about so-and-so. And around the circle, people would go, no, really? Oh man, I can't believe it. Well, that's the way she is, you know. And this nun would go, just be still. She wouldn't talk. And that one contribution of not passing on 是非, the rights and the wrongs, everybody would go, oh, we did it again, didn't we? Oh, thank you for your silence in simply refusing to participate in talking about a third party who wasn't present. She was reflecting on others, how common it is to get involved in gossip. And you might say, so what? No big deal, until the gossip is about you. And then you're, oh, nobody wants to have other people talk about your 是 and 非, your rights and your wrongs. So it's like, that's a really good vow. Shifu praised that simple vow to not gossip. Just simply don't pass it on, right? So that's an example of how Master Hua did Messiah-like, how he depicted the Messiah of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva path. Of course, we're speaking theoretically here, which was simply just, when it comes to the 10 goods and the 10 evil deeds, simply refrain. By not doing those 10 things, 3 with the body, 4 with the mouth, 3 with the mind, you do 10 good things. And that's, you're saving saving yourself, that is, from the suffering that returns as you discuss others, right? Now, people think gossip, well, that's just kind of inconvenient. At one point, some of the monks were talking at Gold Mountain, and Master Hua came down to us and said, I'm going to warn you all. There were 3 of us there talking about some other person. He said, you think this is a joke? He said, for monks, do you know the retribution for talking about others? He said, in this way, especially because you're mean, you're not kind, but just the act of doing this, he said, in the future, he said, the retribution for this is nothing that you want. He said, monks and nuns cannot be casual in this jiang shi, jiang fei, he said, talking about others' rights and wrongs. He said, I'm warning you, but that's all I can do. If you do it, you dig your own grave with your tongue, he said. We're like, and that's a lesson I learned, but I too often forget. Yeah, boy, that was the other 2 monks who were gossiping with me about some other person were regular gossipers. We were in the habit of it and just got careless about it. So Shifu specifically warned us about that particular habit. Now that's 1 out of 10, right? 10 evil deeds, right? Which are killing, stealing, lust, 3 with the body, lying, gossip, harsh speech, profanity, the F-bomb, and frivolous speech, 4 with the mouth, and then greed, anger, wrong views, 3 with the mind. Simply refraining from those, wow, you can change your entire life by simply pulling back on those. Now, that sounds so unglamorous and so moralistic and preachy, right? How do we think the Bodhisattva serves as a refuge, as a savior, as a rescuer of living beings? By putting on a cape and having a logo on their chest and having a movie made by Pixar about them? No, it's by those details of our daily habits. It's down in the nitty-gritty of what we do, what we say, and what we think that we rescue living beings, starting with ourselves. Okay, so anyway, that's to say, Mega is now teaching Sudana about this. Now today, oh my goodness, today's section is so beautiful. It's 1 page. It starts here. Pusa Ru, Bodhisattva is like, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's see, hold on. We get how many rules here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Not 10, as usual. We get 13 images. 13. Are these are metaphors? Are they similes or metaphor? So 13 images of what bodhisattvas are like. 1 page. And I want to take you to the conclusion, just to give you a sense of how good this is. What's the conclusion? Here we go. I'm jumping ahead here, and we'll come back. Here we are. 弥切如是赞叹善财，令诸菩萨皆欢喜矣. Mega's praise of Sudana pleased the bodhisattvas. Right? So that's the first time we've heard that there's kind of like an audience for the teachings other than Sudana. Of course, Sudana is the audience. He's the student. But here we have a chorus. There are bodhisattvas gathered round, watching the teaching happen there in the in the city square where Mega has come down off his seat to bow to his student. And the things he's going to say to Sudana today pleased the Bodhisattva. Okay, are we ready? Should we do the whole thing down? Let's do it from top to bottom, 13 of them, instead of one by one. And then we'll come back and do them again, right? Okay. Here we go. We'll do the whole thing in Chinese first. Join me together. Here we go. 菩萨如风轮，持诸世间，不令堕落恶趣故。如大地增长众生善根故，如大海福德充满无尽故，如镜日智慧光明普照故，如须弥善根高出故，如明月智光处现故，如猛将摧伏魔君故，如君主佛法城中得自在故，如猛火烧尽众生我爱心故，如大云降注无量妙法语故，如时雨增长一切信根芽故，如传师示道法海尽际处故，如桥梁令其得度生死海故。Finally, 迷戒如是赞叹善财，令诸菩萨皆欢喜矣。All righty. So good. Before we go to the English, let me show you the Chinese structure that is repeated over and over. People who say the Avatamsaka is philosophy, you haven't read it. Just your opinion doesn't matter. If you think this is philosophical, this is heart, this is emotional, this is poetry. Here we go. He says it is, starts out, Pusa, Bodhisattva, like, that's the word to be like, simile, I guess. Feng Lun, wind wheel. And then 4 characters, 8 characters, followed by gu, because. Notice, gu, because. Gu, because. So we have ru, something, 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 and then a reason. He's like this thing, and it's a natural image, because. So all of these are the same. They're different lengths. It's not metered, but that's the structure of it. Bodhisattva is this because something, something, something. So it's cause and effect. All right? That's how it's structured. Let us look at the English now. I'll scroll it down as we go. Are we ready? Here we go. As we read, look at the punctuation, take a breath. All right. The Bodhisattva is like a wind wheel because he upholds the worlds so that they will not fall into the evil destinies. He is like the earth because he increases the good roots of beings. He is like the ocean because his blessings and virtue extend endlessly. He's like the sun because his wisdom light shines everywhere. He's like Mount Sumeru because his good roots are lofty and transcendental. He's like the moon because his wisdom light appears. He's like a ferocious general because he vanquishes demonic armies. He's like an emperor because within the city of Buddha Dharma, he is sovereign. He's like a blazing fire because he burns up living beings' thoughts of self and romantic love. He's like a cloud because he lets fall endless, wondrous Dharma rain. He's like the timely rain because he grows the roots of faith for beings. He is like a ship's captain because he ferries beings safely through the straits in the ocean of Dharma. He is like a bridge because he carries beings across the ocean of birth and death. Mega's praise of Sudana pleased the Bodhisattvas. All right. Okay. I put this here so we could see the, let's see, I want folks to see the natural images one by one. Let's see if we can't increase the spacing. Here we go, 1.5, better. All right. So this is a Buddhist sutra. The Buddha spoke it in India, they say 2,500 years ago. And the kind of things he had available to him to be like were mostly natural. There were things in civilization, you could say like a house, like a cart, you know, like a bow or something. But he picked, in this case, images from nature. So wind wheel, one, Mount Sumeru, another. Those are not available to science, to our eyes and ears. Wind wheel, some people suggest that's gravity, that it's gravity. There's a description in the Avatamsaka that underneath a world system are horizontally turning wind wheels, water wheels, so feng lun, shui lun. I don't know if there's fire wheels, but they are, the Buddha described these as parts of every world holding things up. On top of the wind wheels are oceans, and then we have Mount Sumeru, 4 continents, sun and a moon. That's a world. So that's a wind wheel. Could it be gravity? Why not? So it upholds the worlds so they don't fall into the hells, the animals, and the ghosts. Then, more familiar, like the earth. What's the earth like? Increases the good roots of being. In other parts of the sutra, the earth is used as a metaphor because it says it grows every seed impartially. And the Bodhisattva's heart's the same way. He doesn't turn anything away. Any seed you plant in the earth, given that the earth is fertile and you water it, will grow impartially. The Buddha, the earth never says, I don't want your seed. So, what does that mean? Weeds, thistles, star thistle, nettles, devil weed. There's a devil weed here that has these thorns. We've got it. It's between, if you walk from the Buddha Hall to my house, right underneath, right across the bridge, there's a particular spot where this thorny plant, and apparently if you cut it, it multiplies. It's very prolific. It'll grow. It's hard to kill it because it's got these super sharp thorns. Nobody wants to. You have to definitely put on gloves to pull it up. So the earth impartially grows those, but the earth will also grow roses and orchids, and actually water grows orchids. But, so it's water grows lotuses, that is. Anyway, the earth increases the good roots of beings impartially. Okay, the ocean, there we go. Nature gives us the image of the ocean because the Bodhisattva's blessings and virtue extend endlessly. That's what Bodhisattvas are like. What are Bodhisattvas like? They're like the sun because the light of wisdom shines everywhere. We've got an advantage over anybody who has been alive up to, in human form, up to the 1960s, which is what? From the 1960s on, we could see the Earth from spacecraft. I'll never forget, 1969, I was in Donghai University in Taichung, Taiwan. We were at lunch at this really small and homemade cafeteria run by one couple, the Zhang family. It was called the Fuli She. It was where students ate during the summer session at Donghai University. And Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, they probably got the contract to feed the summer school where we were. And the food was okay, tended to be pretty oily. But they fed us and we were well taken care of. But sitting at the table, these formica tables, and looking up on top of the refrigerator was a small black and white TV. And the reception wasn't great. The picture skipped, you know, how old TVs used to do. But what were we watching? We were watching Neil Armstrong step down from the space capsule onto the moon. 1969, summer, July. And there it was. One small step for a man, one great step for a woman. No, for humanity. So there it was. And my goodness, no one born before the 60s had the chance to look back and see the Earth just isolated in this ocean of blackness. So we have had that. It hasn't helped us much. Carl Sagan is so good at putting words to that experience of seeing this tiny Earth in an infinite sea of space, and how that's it. As they say, there is no planet B. There's no second Earth. This is it. And if we screw it up here, nowhere to go. So the Buddha is using the Earth as the place where roots are planted. The ocean is my first experience seeing the ocean. I was born near the Great Lakes. You travel from my house in Toledo about 5 miles, you go right to the shores of Lake Erie. Lake Erie is one of the smaller, I think it is the smallest of the 5 Great Lakes in the Midwest. And Lake Erie is vast. It's shallow. It's been the grave of many ships because of the shallowness. When the wind blows, ships can blow aground. But if you come in from the Atlantic through the St. Lawrence Seaway and on down, on one side is Ontario, on the other side is New York, the state of New York. You travel, you come to Lake Erie, and then you progress on to Lake Michigan and Lake Superior and Lake Ontario and all the other 4 Great Lakes. This is the largest single bodies of fresh water on the earth. And for us, that was the biggest it was the biggest water anywhere until in 1971, my first trip to California, when I saw the Pacific Ocean. And I had no words to describe the Pacific Ocean's vastness. I'd never seen anything like it, and I was hooked. That was it. I'm someone who very much appreciates large bodies of salt water. So that it seemed to extend endlessly. Pacific Ocean, my goodness. So the Buddha made use of that to describe the Bodhisattva's blessings and virtue. And then the sun is the next one. And when we, as I mentioned, when we could look back at the Earth from an orbiting spacecraft, you could see suddenly, in perspective, how tiny it is. And every single general, every single president, every single dictator or autocrat, emperor that ever lived has lived on that small blue marble in the vast ocean of space. And you can appreciate the sun. Actually, humanity is really slow in appreciating this. From the time we started recording history, it took 1,500 years for us to recognize that, in fact, we orbit the sun. The sun's in the center. If you travel to Krakow, Poland, you find Jagiellonian University. Jagiellonian University is where Copernicus studied and graduated and then taught. Copernicus, through his telescope, looked out and said, you know what, actually, we're going around the sun. Threw him in jail. You can't say that. The church was unhappy with that perspective. So now we know, in fact, although you can find conspiracy people who will tell you that's not true, pretty much science agrees that we orbit the sun, and the sun is vast, and every 24 hours we turn around on our axis. Every 365 days we circle the sun one time. So if you want to see the wisdom light of the Bodhisattva, you compare it to the sun, because every 24 hours we'll see it, and then it's gone at night. No, it's dawn again back, because we're turning on our axis, and we're also going around the sun. So Bodhisattvas are the same way. Now, Mount Sumeru, this is an interesting one, because like the wind wheel, people don't see Mount Sumeru. We don't, our ordinary vision does not. But as soon as someone wakes up and can break through the limits of duality, that dual consciousness, they all report the same thing, that indeed Mount Sumeru is the polar mountain. It's in the center, and there are 4 continents, sun and a moon. It's supported on Xiangshui Hai, oceans of fragrant water, which rest on top of wind wheels, etc. So this is how the Buddha describes it. He says, yeah, this is fact. This is how it is. Every world system is the same way. And we go, yeah, that's your opinion, huh? Okay, well, that's kind of legend. It's a legend, because we don't see it. So that's, at this point, you either take it on faith or you deny it, or there's another alternative, which is you can say, I'll table that for further investigation. When I get more knowledge, then I'll be able to see it. You don't have to affirm it or deny it. Okay, now, next one, moon. What's the moon like? The moon, because wisdom light appears. Bodhisattvas are like that. The light of our wisdom, the light of a bodhisattva's wisdom appears how? When needed. It's not available all the time. It appears when? Regularly every 30 days. It's full every 30 days. It's gone every 30 days. And if you wait half of that time, 15, you can see a crescent on this side or a crescent on that side. So one of the best, not that we do astrology, we don't do astrology, but if you have anyone in your family who is a Cancer, born in the last half of June and the first half of July, tell them to tune in to the phase of the moon, because Cancerian people are just this is astrological theory, we neither confirm nor deny, but their Cancerian people are ruled by the moon, and the times of the new moon, the Cancerian person is like, I'm not here, pay no attention, I'm currently deep down, I'll be back soon, right? 1 week passes, quarter moon, it's like, open for business. Full moon, that's where the word loony comes from, lunar. The happiest place for a Cancerian person at that time of the year, that time of the month, is by the beach. Dancing, Bob Dylan would tell you, dancing wild and free by the beach, right? Oh, to dance beneath the diamond sky with one hand waving free, silhouetted by the sea. Now, Bob Dylan is not a Cancer, but he captured it. So then, guess what? Another week passes, quarter moon, kind of going in back to the new moon, not here, right? That cycle, when natives of the Cancer tribe, when you can identify with that monthly cycle of dark, quarter, full, quarter, dark, it's a great blessing. Because like, oh, that explains why my sister, my brother, my mother, my father, me, are moody regularly, and then kind of crazy and inspired other times of the month. That's a cycle. And it's like the moon, the wisdom light appears and then it's gone, but if a living being needs it, the Bodhisattva's wisdom light returns to cool us off. Often, so Guanyin Pusa, right? Guanyin Bodhisattva is said to have 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes to respond when we need her. How does that happen? Often it is simply the absence of needing to act. Guanyin frequently calms the mind simply by saying, chill. You can be calm and still, and everything will find its own place. You don't have to act. This is not the time to burst forward and fight back or seek revenge. They insult your mom, they insult your mother, you think you have to hit them? Because nobody insults my mother. No, you don't. They don't know your mother. That's that person's problem, right? Just say, oh, you're not feeling well, eh? No worries, we're good. My mother is not less because you insulted her, right? And I'm not better because I protect my mother's virtue. No, just, right? Often, Guanyin Bodhisattva's response is simply to cool, to send qing liang, right? Cool and clear. So, if we expect Guanyin Pusa to respond in person, looking like a maiden in a white robe, a white gown, right, holding a fish basket with a willow branch, maybe that can happen too. But more often than not, I think Guanyin's responses are telling us, giving us the courage to simply be patient. Okay, other times, bodhisattvas are ferocious generals because they vanquish demonic armies. How different from the Bai Yi Guanyin, the white-robed bodhisattva, gentle female who cautions us, who counsels us to be still. Sometimes, if you go to the, here, I'll demonstrate. We're gonna put these away here briefly. If we look at this image, here we are. Okay. Above here, we see, here's Guanyin Bodhisattva, okay? So bodhisattvas appear as, bodhisattvas are like the bright moon, and then they let their wisdom light shine when needed. Other times, Guanyin Bodhisattva has, notice there are 11 heads. Guanyin Bodhisattva has 1,000 hands, 1,000 eyes, 42 hands and eyes, and 11 heads. And this one, not so much that one, but that one, they look very mellow and very copacetic and very kind. If you walk behind Guanyin's image, this is the altar at CTDB, and I'm not encouraging people to go wandering up there, but sometimes you can. Behind, these heads here are fierce. They are ferocious. They are scary. They have tusks. They have fangs. Their eyes are shooting fire. They look like nobody you want to meet in a dark night. They look like ferocious generals because they are. And if you examine Guanyin Bodhisattva's 42 hands, you do find lotuses, 3 or 4 different kinds of lotuses. You do find mirrors and whisks and things. But you know what else you find? You find swords. You find vajra pestles. You find axes, battle axes. You find lariats, right? Guanyin Bodhisattva's 42 hands are holding weapons as much as they're holding bells and willow branches, okay? So Guanyin Bodhisattva, yes indeed, does show up as a fantastically scary general in times of need. And you know how it goes. Why is that the case? Shifu would say, Guanyin Bodhisattva teaches us in two different forms. There is the She Shou Fa. She teaches us by gathering us back, of welcoming us when we are in need of strength, when we're in need of support, when we're in need of courage, or if our nature is gentle and tender and a little intimidated by just too much going on. That's when Guanyin Bodhisattva greets us with a lotus flower, greets us with a gentle smile and a hand to support us, giving courage, right? She Shou Fa. However, Guanyin Bodhisattva teaches us when we're feeling mean and nasty with Zhe Fu Fa, subduing methods. Guanyin Bodhisattva can say, if you don't stop, I'm going to smash your head into 1,000 pieces with my Vajra pestle. Try me, right? Guanyin Bodhisattva can be very firm and badder than you. And if you want to mess with her, bad idea, right? Not recommended. So that's really true. So Guanyin Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva can be, as the Sutra says, can be a ferocious general. We were here and here. Be a ferocious general because Guanyin vanquishes demonic armies. Okay, what does it take to vanquish a demonic army? You got to be bad. To measure it, how do you know? Well, they talk about Tianlong Babu, gods, dragons, yakshas, rakshasas, kinnaras, garudas, gandharvas, maharagas, humans, non-humans, and the rest. These are genuinely living spiritual heavyweights. In the spiritual world, from forever to now and on into the future, there are beings that are not human, they're not devas, they exist in another realm. They're in the realm of spirits. And just think about dragons, for example. This is not legendary. These stories come from somewhere, and they come from human experience. These are the meanest, scariest, nastiest, demonic beings ever. And yet, when we encounter them in Buddhism, they're standing underneath the Buddha with their palms together, watching him, listening, and taking notes, because they realize that with their bad tempers, they are not yet what the Buddha is. And if they cultivate the way and subdue their temper, that energy can be recycled into wisdom and compassion. And that's what they want. So the ferocious general subdues so that people change their minds and they want to become like the Buddha. So you're bowing 3 steps on bow at a city of 10,000 Buddhas, and came through this Lincoln Heights, this high school where the students at first were testing us out, and then we didn't hear any noise. And we got to the traffic lights so we could stand up and turn around, and here were 25 high school students bowing, 3 sets on bow behind us, going, "Hey man, this is cool, this is crazy, come on, try it." What are they doing? You know. So then we crossed the street, crossed the intersection, and the end of the day, it was now 5 o'clock, time to stop the bowing. And as we came up from the last bow, this was the border of Chinatown. Lincoln Heights met Chinatown. And here were these 5 guys. They had dark glasses. They were wearing $300 shoes and chains around the necks and big rings and a coat and a bulge under the coat. And the guy's standing like this, looking up and down. And he says, "How long you doing this?" Who was it? Chinatown Gang. And Marty says, "Oh, we've been doing it for now, I guess about 4 days." He says, "How long are you going to do it?" Marty says, "Oh, we're heading for a city of 10,000 Buddhas, Wan Fo Chung. You heard of that up in Ukiah?" Guy says, "That's long." Marty goes, "Yes, yeah, we're bowing for world peace. We're trying to repay the kindness of our parents by doing something good." Guy goes, "Just interesting." They all huddle, talk to guy comes back, he says, "Long as you're in Chinatown, you got nothing to worry about. We'll take care of you. You're all right." He says. So we're like, "How many times?" So the Buddha inspires living beings to use their energies in a different way. And the Bodhisattvas are like ferocious generals. They vanquish demonic armies and turn the demons into what? Dharma protectors. Tianlong Babu protect the Buddha and learn from him because they want to be like him. Bodhisattvas are like emperors because within the city of 10,000 Buddhas, city of Buddha Dharma, they are sovereign. They're like blazing fires because they burn up our thoughts of self and romantic love. Look at that one. Oh boy. All the young couples stand up and walk out of the Buddha hall at that point. I don't want to burn up romantic love. I kind of like romantic love. All of the Netflix movies talk about, you know. So, right. The Bodhisattva, what does he do? He says, young families are absolutely necessary. There has to be a community supporting the Dharma, and everybody cultivates to the degree that they can. If there were no, if romantic love disappeared, there would be no Dharma protectors. There would be no young Buddhists. There would be no Buddhist schools. There would be no future. However, if everyone believes the notion that kind of the Hallmark card movie, romantic rom-com, romantic comedy movie version of reality, think of how sad it would be. Because why? Notice that in those stories, in all of the love stories to date, they take you to the place where you find Mr. Right. You find the perfect, the number one for you, the one you've been waiting for, the fated romance. Then what? As Jack Kornfield's book goes, after the ecstasy, what? The laundry. The day after the wedding, you have to figure out how to get along with number one, with the perfect one. You and me, baby, forever and forever, together forever. It's like, it doesn't work that way. There's a process of getting, what if you're in love with someone but you don't like them? You won't stay together. So romantic love doesn't go away, it matures into a place where you say, ultimately, you don't become a Buddha as a couple. Ultimately, you have to take that energy that looks out, finding salvation in that thing, no matter who it is, the most beautiful, most handsome person in the world, can't save me from my own greed, anger, and delusion that I do with my body, mouth, and mind. Only I can do that. And even we just had a wonderful, we had a funeral recently for one of our senior Dharma protectors in California, who was married to his spouse for 63 years. They were married for 63 years, and when he recently passed away, they were no less in love after 63 years than they were the first day they met. Well, actually, she rejected him for a couple years, so he had to be persistent to marry her. But she finally decided that he was the one, and 63 years later, they were still in love. That's pretty special to be able to do that. However, the wife of this couple was someone responsible for bringing Master Hsuan to America. And her love for the Dharma and her work for the Dharma was equally vigorous as her support for her family and her husband. And this couple were great-grandparents, right? They had a really good life as a couple, but they were able to turn romantic love into love for the Dharma equally. And so that's pretty special. That's the way to do it. If there was not the path of cultivation for lay people, as couples, as parents, as family members, as Dharma protectors, the Sangha wouldn't exist. We would all be arhats in the mountains, growing our own, one day of cultivation, one day of work sort of thing, which is okay, but how many people can do that, right? So understand when the Buddha is saying burning up romantic love, again, it's transformation from romantic love into what? Wisdom. Which doesn't mean we all have to be hermits on the mountainside. I currently really enjoy being a hermit on the mountainside, but it only happens because there are families of devoted lay people who support my unusual lifestyle. So you have to explain this in a way that doesn't sound like the Buddha is dissing love. He's praising the Bodhisattva who is able to transform the often murky light of romance into the deeper light, pure light of wisdom. Okay? So we still celebrate couples who can stay married for 63 years, be great-grandparents, and terrific Dharma protectors. Bodhisattva is like a cloud letting fall endless, wondrous Dharma rain. Bodhisattva is like the timely rain, hallelujah, grows the roots of faith for beings. We, in our picture biography, story of Master Empty Cloud, we are telling about the Boxer Rebellion. The year is 1900. And the Empress Dowager of China, Cixi Taiho, has retreated out of Beijing because the Boxers and the Eight Root, the Balu Jun, the Eight Root armies are conquering the city of Tianjin and the city of Beijing, and there's total chaos. So Master Empty Cloud accompanies them to the west. They flee Beijing and Beiping, I guess at the time, Beijing, and they travel out through the Great Wall, past the Yanmenguan, past the Wild Goose Gate, which in the Tang Dynasty, when Master Xuanzang was going through, that was the border. That was the end of China, the beginning of the wilderness. They go out beyond, and what do they discover? This is northern China. The soil of northern China, the topsoil layer is very thin, so it's hard to grow things in any case, at the best of conditions, but there has been no rainfall for 3, 4, 5 years. There's no crops. People are starving, starvation. And it's a terrible story that was witnessed just 125 years ago by Master Empty Cloud's own eyes, as he writes about it. And you can really appreciate timely rain. Without it, people starve. We can't sustain our lives. Bodhisattva is like timely rain, which falls just enough, just in time, to grow the roots of faith for living beings. That's what bodhisattvas do. They're not growing crops, although if needed they can. They are growing the roots of faith. I like this one. Bodhisattva is like a ship's captain ferrying us safely through the straits in the ocean of Dharma. What do they say? Wang Yang Xing Tan. When you look at all of the Buddha Dharma, you just heave a sigh. The ocean is so vast. It's the ocean of Dharma. There's so many teachings. Oh my goodness. If you start, there's the single vehicle. There's the two truths. There's what? There's the 3 poisons. There's the 4 noble truths. There's the 5 roots and the 5 powers. There's the 6 paramitas. There's the 7 limbs of awakening. There's the 8-fold path. There's the 9 stations of the decaying corpse. There's the 10 grounds, and on up to the the 5,000 dharmas of the Sarvastivadins. So that's a lot of teachings, and it's good to have a shanzhishu, a good advisor, who says, try this now. And ultimately, if your mind is open to it, all those things are expedients that bring you back to the mind, which is the source of all those dharmas. Currently, we are, what are we doing currently? We're studying calligraphy here, pen calligraphy. And here is ChatGPT. I gave it a quote from the Avatamsaka and asked it to generate it in the style of Ludovico Arrighi, the Italian calligrapher, typesetter, who wrote a book on handwriting called the Operina. And so this is what ChatGPT gave me back. An extra comma, I didn't ask for that one, and the Avatamsaka came out as the Avatamsaka, 2 V's. So ChatGPT did a pretty good job, but still mistakes. But isn't that beautiful? This is Chancery italic handwriting. Pretty close to, here is Arrighi's own writing. This is the 15th century font, the hand of Arrighi. You can see how beautiful. And by hand. This is done not by a machine, it's done by a human. But look at the beautiful flourishes on the M and the E closing, right? Ooh, look at those flourishes. Ludovico in Rome, scribe. He's the author, he's the handwriter. What else here? Here's page 20. Look at these capital letters. These are called flourished italic caps. Aren't those lovely? So there it is. Ludovicus Vincenti scribe in the year 1500. There's the alphabet. Okay. From A there we go. Yeah, look at these fancy, right? These large ascenders. Look at the P. There you go. All the way to XYZ. Yeah. So I asked our chatbot to give us the Avatamsaka. That's what it came up with. Sort of, not bad, eh? So we had class today, and Ben mentioned that while we're all concentrating on our letter shapes, there's total focus, right? There's no room for extra thoughts, because we're like, that goes down to the bottom line, right? So our martial arts master, Zhang Yunzhong Shifu, said, of all the martial arts he teaches, and that's Shaolin Quan and Dayan Qigong and Guangping Yang Taiji. He says the best martial art is calligraphy. You can do it the longest. He says old calligraphers stay very loose, and their eyes, their mind, and their hands are all focused on the brush. Of course, he was talking about Chinese brushwork, but okay, we got to finish up here so we have time for our questions. Let's see here. We're back to our script. The Bodhisattva finally is like a bridge because he carries living beings across the ocean of birth and death. Actually, bridges don't cross the ocean, but you get the idea. So the rapid stream of birth and death would work as well. And Bodhisattvas do that, and then what do? They come back for another. They cross back over to the other shore to pick somebody else up to take them across. Mega's praise of Sudana pleased the Bodhisattvas. All right. Very cool. So next week, we get the Wheel of Syllables. Next week, Mega actually communicates to Sudana his particular Jietwoman, his gateway to liberation. Okay. Let's see here. So, let's see. 请问恒实法师，弟弟5月办理婚礼，我们家族是求度七行业，家族内。I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We'll pick these. We'll keep these going next week. Let's look at the ones that have been translated, just because they're down below. I need to answer more. In the scriptures, non-abiding and non-doing. How can you achieve non-abiding and non-doing? Ru Ding, inner samadhi. That's the Bodhisattva on the 7th and 8th stage. Qi Di Pusa才能这样子. Okay, so one by one, step by step. 经文中无助. Okay, during meditation, I silently recite the Shurangama mantra. Sometimes I feel like observing the breath or silently reciting the Great Compassion mantra or the Buddha's name instead. Could you kindly advise me which method is most suitable for me? I don't know you. If I knew you, I might be able to give you some better advice. If you say to the doctor on the telephone, excuse me, dear doctor, my arm hurts. Can you tell me what I should do? The doctor would have to say, well, come and see me. Over the phone, I can't do it. So, in terms of meditation, I also silently recite the Shurangama mantra. I also observe my breath. I also recite the Great Compassion mantra or the Buddha's name. Can somebody tell me which one is better? Do you eat noodles always, or do you sometimes eat rice? Do you eat rice always, or do you sometimes eat bread? Which one is best? Which one is most suitable? Master Hua would say, whichever one you like. And that's not a dodge, that's true. They're all number one. Pick one you like, cultivate it, take 2 that you like, even 3. If they work for you, use them. If they don't, switch. Some young people enjoy Buddhism, reading scriptures, no interest in worldly books. Those young people bear the responsibility of supporting their families. How should this group of people find balance? Let's see, I'm not quite getting it. So if by reading scriptures, somehow you are not supporting your family, what is the balance? Okay, there's no magic here. Somehow they should be reading worldly books in order to support their family. I don't quite get it. Let's see here. 有些年轻人欢喜佛法，欢喜看经书，对世间书既无兴趣，但是年轻人负责着养家糊口的责任，这样人应该如何平衡？ Do they only, they don't do anything else than read scriptures and they never go to work and never get a job? Is that the idea? Not quite clear how that question works. Maybe ask it again. Be more specific. 再来更详细一点。我看不懂，听不懂。Dharma Master, humbly pay respects. May I ask, what are the differences in practice between Samaya precepts of esoteric Buddhism and the observance of precepts in exoteric Buddhism? Can the Dakini adept modify the visualization methods and even rest in the profound emptiness of samadhi during the Bhadra's Pratyutpana samadhi? The precepts that I'm familiar with come from the what's called the Dharma Gupta, the Sifan Lu. We also cultivate the Pusatje, the Bodhisattva precepts from the Fanwang Jing, the Brahma Jala Sutra. So those are all esoteric precepts. Exoteric Buddhism, I have never studied. I don't want to even give an opinion. We are the Shenzong. We also do Mizong from mantras, but exoteric precepts, can't give an opinion. Sorry, disappoint you. The relationship between non-conforming nature of the shamatha branch, as discussed in the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, and the emphasis of the Dharma Master Chirja during the teaching of the great bright mantra that the Dantian is located within the navel, not below it. Is that a question? I don't see there's a question there. Okay, in the way it is taught, if the question is where is the Dantian, it's not below, it's behind, okay? Behind the navel, not below it. If you go below it, you will put your energy in the wrong place. Isn't conditioned existence subject to birth and death, as far as I understand it? Why let go of conditioned existence? Sorry, friend, you have no choice. When it's time to die, you will let go of conditioned existence. The question is, how do we cultivate before we get to the place of birth and death? And if we don't know fear, we will come around again. There's a wonderful story about a Zen master who, in America, he was about to die, and there was his students were saying, wow, he's really enlightened. Just before his death, what did he do? He went like that, and then he died. And he was like, whoa, great. So people went back to Master Hua and said, Shifu, so-and-so Zen master, before he died, he went like this. What do you think, Shifu? Shifu said, Ayo, 可怜, how sad. Now in the heavens, now in humans, here we go again. Okay, respectful greetings. This is the issue I've encountered. There's a group of people practicing the heart center method, have no idea what that is. One of them is 40 years old, a lay practitioner. He's giving people initiations. I believe he's guiding others. He responded, passing on the teachings on behalf of the master is actually just like being brothers. I'm lost. I have no idea what this is about. One's own life and death are no longer an issue. And since there are many people practicing, each region needs someone to give initiations on behalf of the master. It's not about being a leader. There are more people like him giving initiations. First, I'm not interested in the heart center method. Secondly, I advise them to read the teachings of Master Hsuan, but they're attached to the teachings of their own master. In the last class, you talked about not abandoning sentient beings. For people like this, I feel I don't have the ability to change them. How can I achieve not abandoning them? There's 100 people like this. I would say, 师父领进门，修行在个人. The teacher brings you to the door. Whether or not you enter is up to you, yourself. Pay no attention to methods that deal with initiations and where there's a power, no matter what they say. In the end, you have to decide what to do with your body, with the words you speak, and the thoughts you think. Save yourself. If you're able to do that, maybe you can help other people. Okay? Patrice. Patrice wants to know, this was asked back in December. Sorry, Patrice, you're a little late with my answer here, right? Why do schools go by designations like Avatamsaka school? Does that mean that's the only sutra they focus on and practice? If I'm not mistaken, Korea has one. So historically, as the Dharma was in China for 2,000 years, various teachings and teachers emerged. And for example, the Tiantai school focused around the Lotus Sutra, and the Avatamsaka school focused around the Avatamsaka Sutra. The Chan school focused around sitting still, looking into the mind. The Pure Land school focused around reciting the Buddha's name and Amitofo, Amitofo, Amitofo. The mantra school, secret school, Mizong, focused around reciting mantras, and the Vinaya school focused around the teachings in the community, wanting to be pure and make no mistakes. So that's historically that happens. Christianity is the same, Islam, same, Hinduism, same. If you go to a Buddhist Studies Academy in China, by and large, what they teach you are called the Ba Da Zong Pai, the 8 great schools. There's more than simply what are called the Wu Zong, the 5 schools in the Mahayana. So there's the Xing Zong, teaching the school of the nature. There's the Xiang Zong, the teaching of external forms. They take as an anchor a particular perspective or a doctrine. And so over time, they say that back in the Tang Dynasty, Maitreya Bodhisattva was a really, really popular school. And they were focused on Maitreya Bodhisattva's coming as the next Buddha to be. He'll be here for 3 days and 3 nights, and then you have to get saved, and then he enters nirvana. After a while, the Maitreya school pretty much went out of popularity, and Amitabha in the Pure Land became really popular, right? So schools come and go. Patrice, if you can cultivate and get enlightened, we will be the Binaisa school, right? So who knows? Anything is possible. So try your best. Do you see benefits cross-referencing Sanskrit text while mainly using Chinese versions? Absolutely, and we do it all the time. Not the text so much because they don't correspond one-to-one, but as we translate the Avatamsaka, we are always referencing Sanskrit. Luckily, our translation group is blessed with PhDs in Sanskrit. Jin Xiangzhi Barb, Barbara Wah, got her degree from South and Southeast Asian Studies, UC Berkeley. Tremendous help in studying Sanskrit. Currently at Dharma Realm Buddhist University, we have a strong Sanskrit department with professors who are publishing in India currently. So we are strong advocates of Sanskrit scholarship and using Sanskrit texts to study the Dharma when you can. We have more Chinese texts complete than we have Sanskrit texts, but they're essential to understanding our Chinese, and then the Chinese is essential for understanding our English. Okay, here we go. My younger brother is having his wedding in May. Our family's involved in livestock and veterinary, heavy karmic burden of killing with the family causing disharmony. How can I develop great resolve to guide my parents to take refuge in the 3 gems as possible? Adopt a vegetarian diet, reduce the karmic killing, and arrange for vegetarian banquet. Yeah, I totally support your wish to do so. Difficult, especially when their living comes from that. I would suggest one good place to begin is to start with the tongue. That is to say, every once a week, if you can negotiate with your family and say, could we do a meatless Monday? Could we do 1 meal per week where we add a vegetarian dish. Start slow. Have a small goal, a modest goal, and say, how did that taste? And then you have to make that one dish, one day a week, really tasty. My stepfather was a major steak eater. My stepfather, Ted Metcalf, traveled the whole world. He was a world traveler. But wherever he went, it was Paris, it was Rio de Janeiro, he would say, I'd like a steak. I really like steak. What have you got? You got some good ribeye steak, T-bone steak? You know, and he traveled to Japan, and he would always say, well, I kind of like Kobe beef. You know? And when he came to the monastery to visit, we'd feed him vegetarian food, and he'd go, boy, that tastes good. If I could eat that every day, I wouldn't miss steak. And my mom would roll her eyes and go, yeah, I've heard that before. He's being diplomatic, you know. So, but my mom was lactose intolerant, so she introduced vegetarian food in the home. And bit by bit, my stepfather could live with eating vegetarian. If you can get that much of a concession, good tasting vegetarian food for your family, bit by bit, they open up to the possibility that maybe it's okay to let go of meat on the diet. That's a start. If you say you shouldn't kill animals because it's bad karma, they're going to reject it right out of hand. They're going to say, who paid for your education? Who paid for your car? Who paid for your clothes? The roof over your head, right? So it's tough. When Master Hua was explaining the Shurangama, he said that if you've done a lot of killing, you might want to leave that lifestyle, but the karma that you owe pulls you right back into the relationship with the beings that you killed. And sometimes you just have to be very patient to exit that kind of relationship, of mutual killing and consuming. You have to come back so that they can kill you and eat you. It is really not a joke. When you have an opportunity, praise, kindness, and compassion. Don't look down upon any family member for being murderers or however, right? Be compassionate and be kind and introduce good tasting vegetarian food. Then when you have a chance, explain to them that nothing died to eat that good food. And your body thanks you, your karma thanks you, right? It's a difficult situation. And when you have the opportunity, teach by example. Okay? Don't get angry. If you eat a lot of meat, boy, emotions and anger are right there under the surface. So if you can yourself, as a vegetarian, as a Buddhist, show them the benefits of being free from the fire of consuming animals that didn't want to die, right? Then you are truly crossing them over as they can, okay? Bit by bit. All right. Thank you, everyone, sorry for the technical issues early on. We'll get that all ironed out. We're going to dedicate merit now, and let's do Medicine Buddha's mantra here. We've got a measles outbreak in Texas that is growing and growing, and measles was pretty much gone, but in order to eradicate a disease, everybody has to agree. If there's just one family that says, no, I don't care, then it'll spread. Measles is really contagious, and children who have measles can tend to get, it weakens the lungs, and they can get pneumonia in adult life easily, so not a good thing. Medicine Buddha's mantra is there to help people wake up to the benefits of vaccines and wiping out disease that way. However you want to dedicate merit, up to you, please make that vow. Om Prabharajaya Avatamsaka Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Avyata Saji Saji Isaja Sankate Swaha Namo Bhagavate Vaisajya Vajurya Prabharajaya Atagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Avyata Saji Saji Isaja Samukate Swaha. One more time. Namo Bhagavate Vaisajya Vajurya Prabharajaya Atagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Avyata Saji Saji Isaja Samukate Swaha. Now, before we go, we have to bow, but I wanted to announce to everybody that Buddha Root Farm is coming up in California. And let's see here. Why can't I find it? To type it in. I'll give you the website, Buddha Root Farm right there. Here's the news, the dates this year. It's a Guanyin session. The dates are June 21st to June 27th in coastal Oregon, a beautiful place to have a retreat in the purity of the mountains, Turtle Mountain Wildlife Refuge, a place where Master Hsuan introduced the Buddha Dharma and said, this is how we're going to cultivate in the new world. So do come check out Buddha Root Farm. All you need to know is, oops, one more time here, let me go back. All you need to know is here on the form, let's see here. Oops, I outsmarted myself here. There we go. Click on that one. There we go. Here's the information. Don't wait too long to decide to go. We're about half full already. Here's all the information there. Here's how you apply. Click on that. It'll take you to a form. If you want more news about it, go down to the website here. We have videos and songs and stories. It's outdoor camping and quite marvelous. Nothing like Buddha Root Farm. So do check it out. And we want to bow to the Buddha before we end here. Okay, welcome to join me. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you all next week. Amitofo. Bye now.